On January 6, 2021, Markelle Fultz tore his ACL against the Cavaliers while driving to the basket. After this, the interest in the young star shrunk once again. This was his second injury, and people were still questioning whether or not he could be a positive NBA player since the whole Philadelphia situation in which he couldn't shoot the ball. At this point, the former number 1 overall pick was falling short of all expectations. It wasn't about what he was producing on the court, although that wasn't really what people were looking for. He couldn't stay healthy, and that was the biggest thing and why people were beginning to give up on Markelle Fultz. He already had the bust label put on him, and at this point, it was getting bad. People were comparing him to Anthony Bennett. But with the team that Orlando has put together, plus the flashes Markelle has shown us this past season, the former number 1 overall pick might just be getting started, and he might be in the hunt for the most improved player next year. Now we all know Markelle's story. He was a highly touted NBA prospect out of the University of Washington. He was the number 1 overall pick in the draft that featured players such as Bam Adebayo, Donovan Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox, and Jason Tatum. But when Markelle got to Philadelphia, something weird happened. He couldn't shoot the ball at all. He had developed a condition, which was a neck and shoulder injury that prevented him from replicating what he did at Washington and Philadelphia. This condition prevented Markelle Fultz from even stepping on the NBA floor early in his career. And nearly a year and a half later, Fultz was traded to the Orlando Magic, marking the beginning of a potential career resurgence. Markelle looked promising early on in Orlando, and really everyone was just happy that he was out there on the floor. He couldn't shoot, but hey, he was getting experience, and there was hope in his career that wasn't there when he was in Philadelphia. But on January 6, 2021, during a game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, Markelle Fultz was driving to the basket and he suffered a torn ACL. This was another major injury early on in his career, and people were beginning to forget about him and give up on him. People were starting to call him a bust and say he might have been the worst number 1 overall pick since 2013 when the Cavaliers took Anthony Bennett. And as you can imagine, this took a toll on Fultz. Through his recovery, he had suffered through a lot of physical doubt and some hard days that comes when you have to recover from not only a shoulder injury that prevented you from shooting, but also a torn ACL. But when he came back this past season, he looked better than ever. He hit the ground running as soon as he made his return to the Orlando Magic and made an immediate impact as soon as he hit the court. In his first 6 games since returning from the ACL injury, Fultz averaged 10 points per game and 5.5 assists per game. He shot 53.3% from the floor, but he still was not shooting the ball as he only shot 2 for 5 from beyond the arc. Now these stats probably don't move you, but he really did look phenomenal in these 10 games. He was doing this in just 17.3 minutes, and his per 36 numbers were insane. His per 36 numbers were as following. He averaged 20.8 points and 11.4 assists. These are star level numbers that he was putting up in this time period. He was very in control of his game, which is a promising trait from a young star, and he consistently was getting to his spots on the court. He was playing so good that in certain games when it came time for Coach Jamal Mosley to pull him from the game due to his minutes restriction, Coach will look a little reluctant to do so. The team was better as well. The Magic had an offensive rating of 108.7 points per 100 possessions when Fultz was on the floor. His impact defensively was strong as well. They only allowed 103.5 points per 100 possessions when he was on the floor, when the average was 106.4. And this was consistent all throughout the season. But his scoring wasn't the main attraction. It was his playmaking. In the 20 minutes he would get per game, Markelle would average 10.8 potential assists. The league leader was Chris Paul, who averaged 19.6 potential assists, but he played 33 minutes per game. So with some adjustment, we found if Fultz played 33 minutes per game, he would average 17.8 potential assists. The crazy thing is, Fultz was doing all this after a year away from the NBA floor and a knee surgery while only being 23 years old. His numbers at the end of the season were decent. In 20 minutes played per game, he averaged 10.8 points, 5.5 assists, 2.7 rebounds, and shot 47.4% from the field. He also showed some shooting promise in these games as he shot 39.5% on his pull-ups this year. These stats plus the flashes he showed makes it feel like Markelle is primed for a breakout year this upcoming season. I say this for a couple of reasons. The first one, this will be the first fully healthy summer of his entire NBA career. Between the condition he suffered with and the ACL surgery, plus the mental hurdles he had to face, he never really was able to find some balance and focus on getting better at basketball. But all of that is fading into memory, and he can finally focus on improving his skills. Secondly, his playmaking will be unlocked more than ever this year. With the addition of Paolo and Francis Wendell as his running mates, there is no doubt in my mind, and there shouldn't be any in yours either, that his playmaking will skyrocket. Now, his playmaking is amazing, but he can also score the ball for himself. Now, although his scoring does need some work, he can create a shot for himself if he needs to. He was amazing this season when it came to finishing at the rim. He finished in the 92nd percentile for rim shot making, the 96th percentile for contact finish rate, and the 98th percentile for unassisted rim field goals made per 75 possessions. Markelle was amazing in transition as he converted on nearly 63% of his transition opportunities, and he was good in the pick and roll too as he converted on 50% of his pick and roll opportunities. It's obvious he's a gifted finisher with rare and controlled explosiveness, and his shooting form does look much smoother than it did previously. He was amazing from mid-range this year as he hit 44.1% of his shots in the 15 to 19 foot range in the NBA. Now, he isn't shooting threes yet, and this is something we all know he has to eventually start doing. Not a whole lot. He doesn't have to shoot like 8 threes per game, but he is going to have to start doing it enough to where he can become a bigger threat out there on the court. With all that being said, though, he definitely still has some left to take. He showed some crazy resilience so far, and he's worked his butt off to get to this point in his career. He showed a multitude of flashes in his time with the Orlando Magic, and with the team that is around him, although Paolo will be the number one option, him as a number two is amazing for him, and there is very little doubt in my mind that he will flourish, and maybe he will finally show all of us what we were expecting from the young boy out of Washington in 2017. But that's just what I think. Y'all, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Leave a like, and if you like what you saw, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to hear more of my opinions on basketball that I won't post on YouTube, check out my Twitter and my TikTok. Both links will be in the description. And if you like football and you like the type of videos I make here, I have another channel that you can check out as well. But until next time, y'all have a good day. Peace.